Good evening, everyone. This is the Village of Woodlawn's Finance Committee meeting. My name is Rosemary Brown. I'm Chair of the Finance Committee this year. Cindy Chandler is on the committee, as well as Pamela Fitzgerald. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Rosemary Brown.
Present.
Pamela Fitzgerald.
Present.
Cindy Chandler.
Present.
All right. We'll go through and look at the minutes from the last meeting, the December meeting. We've got a new committee. So.
Excuse me, I am hearing an echo. Do you guys hear it?
Small one, I do,
Anybody else?
Gigi.
I am hearing
I do,
an
I
echo
hear an
now.
echo.
Yeah, I do.
Do you think you could
It'll
make
help if
myself-
everybody goes on mute if that's not talking. That usually helps. with
It
the
might
echo.
be that Pamela might have her volume up on her computer.
Yeah, I do hear.
Let me check, just one second. It says I'm on mute.
Yeah, still turn your sound off on your computer because sometimes it'll.
Yeah, but it's just a computer. You might be on mute, but your computer might have audio up.
I think because
Okay, try it now. I just did it.
she dialed
better?
in and then now she's also live. I think that's the conflict right there.
We can.
Is that better? I just turned the volume all the way down to 0.
Okay, we'll try it again. Still hear a little bit of an
Tim,
echo.
you says you're on mute, but we can hear you. You knew that?
Yeah. Is it annoying to everyone?
Carl, can you go on mute to see, to test it out?
Yeah, right.
Carl, can you mute?
Yeah. I hear it a little bit. But again, I think we all have to get reacclimated to the world of Zoom.
Yeah.
So don't let that be a deterrent of your time. I'm
This
not
may-
for sure. It seemed like everybody else was clear. I heard the echoing from you, Ms. Brown.
I heard it from Pam.
If you're not speaking, keep it on mute. That usually helps with the echo.
Yeah, everybody, can you turn your be on mute until, there you go.
Turn
It
your
looks
mute
like
on your phone, too,
everybody
Pam.
is on mute.
Turn your mute on your phone too, Pam.
I'm on mute.
But not on your phone.
Well, I have the mute button. Is there any other thing that I need to choose? It says *6 to speak. And I
Okay.
just hit the mute button. Is there anything else when you call in? Is it any other button you should push besides the mute button? Because I've been on mute.
I don't think so. Sounds like you're good.
It may be something that we just may have to live with today until we can get it figured out for the sake of timing. We have the minutes from the December 16th meeting. Everyone have a chance to read through those minutes? I did have a question, Tim, on those minutes. The income tax update. That
Yes.
paragraph, the second sentence in that paragraph, it says the village collected $481,275, and some cents. And
Yes.
of that, $100 was deposited into the village treasurer in November. And
Correct.
then it gives the remaining $481 and $275 was deposited in December. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
It
Then
should
that
be,
should be less than $100
it should be, yes.
going into December deposit.
Correct. Yes, it should be 481,175.
Okay. So that's the only thing I saw. Did anyone else see anything?
No,
None
ma'am.
here?
I didn't.
Okay. 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 So can I get approval of the minutes from the last meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from December 16th, 2021.
I second it.
Okay, thank you. From that, we're going to go into the
All
remainder.
eyes. All eyes.
Aye.
Thank
All
Ms.
ayes.
Brown.
All ayes.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Just for the record, sorry, folks.
All right.
Always for the record.
Okay, with that being said, we're going to go into the agenda items. We'll go into the income tax update. That'll be Charles. You're on mute, Charles.
Good evening, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Good morning. Good evening.
Good morning is appropriate too.
Okay.
And everyone else, Mayor, Village Manager, Tim, everyone, good evening.
Good evening.
We've completed our first year as a RETA community to a very good success. 6.3, almost $6.4 million collected for year 2021. About 740,000 collected more in 2021 than what we collected in 2020. Collected in 2020. That's almost like, well, it's really like collecting 13 months of revenue as opposed to 12 months of revenue. RETA has been tremendous for us in 2021. We look to collect even more going forward. For the month of December, you see we collected $504,857,000 compared to the same period in 2020, $452,271. That's a 12% increase over December 2020. So it makes, like I said, it makes for the grand total for the year collected $6,391,764. That $739 increase, like I said, is like a 13th month of revenue collected for the village. So that translates to our road fund of $831,000 put into our road fund for 2021. We put $732,000 in there for 2020. And $647,000 was put into our road fund the first year of collection for 2019. So that makes a total of $2.2 million collected between January 1 and January 1, 2019 and December 31st, 2021. Of that $2.2 million, $778,000 has been expended. None in 2019, all of that was in 2020 and 2021. So what's left for the road fund as of December 31st, 2021 is $1.4 million. Actually, $1,433,089. We're in the third year of this 5-year levy. So we have 2 more years of collecting money for our road fund. As you all have heard in the past, the finance director and I, we recommend that this levy continue on for another 5 years. We have plenty of more time to talk about that as the ending of this levy will come up at the end of 2023. If I'm thinking about it correctly, maybe the end of 2024. 2023 is when it will end. We look to have, there was, like I said, an increase of 739,000 over last year. Got to keep in mind as you look at the detail on the collection, very little of that is penalty and interest. That's going to change somewhere in the middle of this year. We'll start the levy penalty and interest. I'm not sure if it's June 1 or June 30th. I want to say it's somewhere in June. We know that our collections are going to go up. We are interested in collecting just our tax that's due. We have really been lenient to residents who have past taxes that are due on not collecting penalty and interest. That's going to change. We've been talking to residents, letting them know that that will change in the middle of this year. We've always collected penalty and interest on delinquent taxes from businesses. So that hasn't been an issue in the past, but we're going to hear more complaints from residents as penalty and interest, because sometimes penalty and interest can be, in some instances, it could be actually more than the tax itself. So we'll hear from that. We'll hear from the residents in that area in the tax department. But we've been talking to them about that. So just to let you all know that that's something that's coming. That's going to be a change for the village of Woodlawn in 2022.
Okay.
Are there any questions? That's all that I have.
Are there? Okay. Ms. Fitzgerald?
I have a couple questions, Charles.
Yes, ma'am.
I think the tax levy ends, is it this year, 2022?
No, ma'am. We're in the third year. Correct, at the end of 2023.
End of 2023, okay.
Correct.
So I have a couple questions. First question, I would like to know, and you might not know this answer tonight, what percentage has RETA not collected, as far as based on the taxpayers that are in Woodlawn? What percentage are they still trying to get payment from? I would like to know that.
That's a very good.
The percentage that they have collected from, and the percentage that they haven't. So that would give us kind of a delta of what's still out there remaining that is a possibility that we could collect from. Second question is, what amount do we pay RETA for their services? So we pretty much took in 739,000 or 740, close to it. And how much does it cost us for the services for RETA? I know it was 1 or 2% based on some how much they collected, but I'm just interested in knowing what that really looks like. Even though we have brought in revenue, they brought in revenue for us for around 740,000. How much do we actually end up with?
Yes, that's a very good metric. The first question you asked is how much have they not? We still are trying to ascertain that. One of the things that will help us with that, the Ohio Department of Taxation allows each municipality to know who has filed a tax return with the Ohio Department of Taxation that are in our borders. So we'll be able to do a really good comparison as to how many returns we've received versus how many returns the Ohio Department of Taxation has received. So we'll be able to give some really good numbers on that first question that you had as to how many we haven't collected. That's just been a huge unknown for probably forever as to how many should be filing that are not filing. We'll be able to give some good figures on that as the months come, especially after the filing deadline this year is April 18th. So we'll be able to give some good numbers as to what how many people we should be collecting from that we haven't collected at this point.
I mean, it seems like they would have those, they should have those numbers or something close to those numbers, because they know how many residents that actually physically live in Woodlawn by addresses. I'm just curious. I'd like to know the answer to that question at some point.
So
Sure.
we can circle
Okay.
back with Rita tomorrow and see if we can get that information. If I can get that, I'll go ahead and email it out to the group.
Sure.
Okay.
Very well.
And then I
I'll
think
jump
also,
I'll jump in on your second question, Pam.
right,
On the amount that Rita has charged us thus far, in your packets, you have a monthly distribution report included.
Mhm.
On page 3 of 5 of that
Mhm.
distribution report, as it's numbered,
Mhm.
you'll see that the retainer for 2021 is $188,957.51. That's related to what they collected in 2021. That retainer is
Mhm.
based on a 3% withholdings that they take from us. That
Right.
3% covers their fee as well as any tax returns, return of money they've got to push back out to the people that file and the businesses. There's a true up that they do at the beginning of the year where they refund us a certain amount of that 188, and that should be coming soon. I can check in with them about the percentage of folks that they're still looking to file. I can see when that true up report is coming as well.
Madam Chair.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, Tim, thanks. Is there any more questions, Pam, that you have?
No, I think I'm good so far. Thank you.
All right, Mayor.
Yeah, I so appreciate that question from Pam, because that is a piece that we would like to really wrap our arms around. But what I really want as a council is that we celebrate the win. And when I say we celebrate the win, is the fact that we have much more money from Rita. So it was that fear. It was that fear of taking that risk. And as council, sometimes we as a council, we're going to have to take those risks. And so there was some pushback in terms of the whole Rita thing. And now I'm hearing nothing but great things. So I think we're in the right direction. That question that Pam put out there on the floor is an awesome question. Gives us an opportunity to see what's else out there in addition to what they've done. But at the end of the day, as a council, I think we need to celebrate the win because we clearly see that in our reports of that additional revenue. So again, I think in addition to that, what we see, in addition to possibly answering Pam's question, there's some additional funding out there. So I just want to really celebrate the win that we did. Just going along with Rita, just taking the recommendations from our finance director, which that's what we should do. And he gave us that direction and we did. And so I just, again, want to celebrate that win, but really looking for that additional information that Pam has asked for as well.
Hey,
Okay,
Mayor, just
thank
continue-
you. I see.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Hold on just a moment. I see Ms. Boyd. Can I let Pam respond to the mayor? Thank you.
I totally agree, Mayor Poole, but I just think it will take us, we can go places if we know where we're going. That's why I asked that question, because
That's why I agree.
I agree there has been so much revenue that was collected, but the percentage, if it's still a huge percentage that's still out there, we can
Right.
start to really vision of where,
Right.
what our next steps are, instead of saying, hey, we've collected 95%,
Right.
where do we, it's probably
Right.
going to just stay right here, where we may have only collected 50% and we may
Right.
double that. I mean, you just don't
Right.
know.
Right.
So that's why I asked the question too.
No, good question. Good question. No problem.
Okay.
Also,
Ms.
wanna-
Boyd, I'm sorry, Tim.
Nope, that's my
You
fault. I
wanted to
forgot.
finish your, you wanted to
I'd
finish
forgotten
your
Ms. Boyd
statement?
had, I'm sorry, I'd forgotten Ms. Boyd had raised her hand. Go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Boyd.
You had said that we give them in advance, they take in advance and then they refund us. Is that an advance on what the cost would be? And then, because they charge, what is it, 3% of what we collect?
So they have a kind of mathematical formula built into their system, but it averages out to about 2% of what they collect for us. They collect throughout the year, they collect a flat 3%, and that covers their fee plus any tax refunds they have to push out.
Okay, so then, the flat 3 is to cover everything. So we don't pay them any other monies besides that 2% and including, making it 3, including their flat fee.
For tax collections, no. Now, if we take people to court and they prosecute them for us, there's an additional fee for that. But
Okay,
so far, we haven't gotten into that part of things.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other questions regarding Rita?
I have none.
Okay. Then we're going to move into the finance update, and I'll turn it over to Tim.
Sure. Before I jump into that, I want to just piggyback on something Charles said before real quick. We had recommended that we reestablish the levy for another 5 years. Anson and I are both working on different grants and trying to apply to different funding mechanisms to try to leverage that road tax as best as we can. So as we continue through 2022 and into 2023, we may amend that statement. Maybe hope, and our hope is that we would be able to get away with not doing that for another 5. Maybe we can get it down to 3, or if we get real lucky, maybe we don't have to do it. But as we move forward, we'll continue to try to find ways to stretch that money. I just want to
Okay.
put that out there.
Okay. Good stuff.
Yep. But moving on to the Finance Committee report. Reports provided to the Finance Committee. Obviously, you have your appropriations reports. As of December 31, 2021, the village collected 102% of budgeted revenues and expended 83% of appropriations. The detailed budget versus actual reports are in your electronic packets. You have the summarized Excel spreadsheets in your hard copies. Receipts and expenses included in this report is a spreadsheet to provide an overview of receipts and disbursements from January 1, 2021 through December 31 of 2021. For the month of December specifically, the village collected $594,795.40 and dispersed $807,853.33. December expenditures included a third payroll in December, which included payouts for longevity and first responder holiday payouts, which accounts for approximately $200,000 of that $807,000 number. A payment of $24,608 to the adjunct general's office, that's for our recreation center, and $42,314 to Hamilton County Stormwater for the services they provided for us in 2021. General fund disbursements were higher than total village disbursements, where the village dispersed 92% of general fund budgeted expenditures, but the village also collected 101% of total general fund budgeted receipts. Within our fund balance report, that's also included in your packet, so you can see how much money is in each one of the funds. And then you have a bank reconciliation report as well for the month ending December 31 or 2021. Before I move on, are there any questions about those things? I tend to go through those a little quickly.
Pam,
Oh.
Pam,
I have a question. It's in
Sure.
the receipt listing.
Uh-huh.
You have the Village of Woodlawn listed, $30,000.
Yes. That goes back to our mayor's court. We have to track mayor's court activity in UAN. So in order to do that,
Okay.
we created Fund 9901, which tracks the court activity, and that Village of Woodlawn relates to that. So it always posted as
Okay.
a receipt, but it's to help track the court activity.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Did you say a payment listing too? Did you go over that real fast? Because I do have a question with that if you want to answer now, or I can wait.
I mentioned it there, so go ahead.
I saw quite a few names, and I know we talked about that before, that were listed on the payment listing. Is it just that the people are getting refunded?
Yes, a lot of those are recreation refunds. There was one payroll error in December, so some of those were to make up for that error. But mostly those are refunds to, I just sort of breezed through them here. A lot of those were refunds for recreations.
Yeah, so I'm assuming because there's names that are employees. I know we talked about that before, employees getting checks, so.
Correct.
I was just, okay, so
Yes.
it may be basketball or something like that going on.
We did have basketball going on, so there was a check for basketball made out to Mr. Fuller. He uses that to pay the referee fees. There were some other said checks that were made out related to a payroll error that we had to push back out in December. But that was really the majority of those items.
So I have just one last question. So when there's a check to an employee and they just fill out a form, how does that get tracked just through the audit piece of it?
So if the check relates to a payroll error, we push a manual check through the payroll system, and that keeps the check that tracks that payment through their W-2, so their tax filings are correct. If there's a reimbursement to an employee for something that they bought, there's a reimbursement form. And specifically the referee fee payments to Mr. Fuller, those are done in advance. He sends us a schedule of the games for the month. We cut him a check. And then there's a sign out sheet for the people that pick up the money for the referee fees. And that's how we track that one.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Really.
Did I? Go ahead, Mayor.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I just had a question, real quick question.
Yeah. I know at one time we had talked about it, and I don't know if we did it. I want to think that we did. We used to have, and I think we're trying to get away from it. I would just like to see if there was another way that we can handle those referee checks, them getting paid. I know at one time, I think we did have that, and Cindy could correct me if I'm wrong. We had a petty cash. We would do a petty cash thing down there for the referee fees. And I think we wanted to get away from that. But if we can just maybe talk around, maybe there's another way that we could do that.
Well,
So that people may not have to have that come out of their pocket and then get reimbursed. Well, you're giving
You're
it to
not-
them ahead of
Yeah,
time, right?
correct.
Yeah, he's not being reimbursed. We're paying that in
Right, you're
advance.
giving it to him ahead of
Yeah.
time.
And that
Right.
is,
Okay,
it's basically just so the check can be made out to somebody to go cash the check and take the money to rec. It's
Correct.
kept in the safe at
Okay.
recreation. Yeah,
okay,
when it's needed.
all
But
right.
to
Go ahead.
Madam's Chair point there, I see this as an internal control that it sounds like Tim has a pulse on, right? So he's writing the check. You mentioned something about we need to come up with maybe a plan of how that looks. And as long as the internal control is there is an audible tracing form. So if there's something that he has that employee fill out for that purpose, right? We went away from petty cash because there was petty cash not there, right?
Right.
So my point is that should we as council look at the question is, don't we feel comfortable enough with the control that is already in place from Tim to say that as long as that marries up with any audible, anything like that, we should be fine with that. I'm not understanding what we're really trying to get out of changing that process without knowing all the particulars, especially when it
Right.
comes to audible tracing.
I think, and
Just,
from what I can surmise, I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with that, there's cash being distributed. And as a former auditor, I hate that too. Unfortunately for the local referee fees, there's just not a great mechanism to do that. I know we discussed this last year as well, and the public schools have an entire system to do this. That's just not something that local recreation centers have.
mhm,
If it becomes available, we'll certainly sign into it, but
okay.
currently it's not there for us.
I mean, I
Okay.
think you have to look at it like this. Normally,
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because when I said look into other possible ways, if there's something else or another possibility out there of doing it, then yeah, we can look into it.
Yep.
Just keep it out there, something to think
Mhm.
about. That's all.
Yep.
It's
absolutely.
always good to improve upon if we can. Pam, let me get to Cindy. Cindy had her hand up for a minute, okay?
I was just you had referenced to me as, I guess, some facts on how things were done in the past. And we looked at different ways. And I think the best practice that we have in place now works the best, because if we as a group don't understand how referees have to be paid, they're paid at the end of the day. So it's not like we can cut them a check once a month or different things like that. So there were things that we discussed historically some time ago, and this is a great practice that we have in place now.
Okay. I'm going to go back to Ms. Fitzgerald. She had her hand up, and then I'll come back to you, Esther. Is that okay?
Sorry, Ms. Brown, I had put my little
Yeah,
hand.
I'm
ahead,
sorry,
yeah.
I didn't see you up there in
I
the
know it's
corner. I
hard.
just saw your lovely picture sitting there.
That's all right. But go ahead, Pam, and I'll just go after you.
I was just saying, I just was concerned about the audit trail, and you almost have to think of it like this: when someone cuts a check, they don't cut it for me to give it to Tim and Tim to give it to someone else. They normally cut the check for it to go directly to the person, and they can do whatever they want with it. So that's why I was just trying to understand just the paperwork behind that, in case it's ever audited or something like that. They would always have a paper trail, which I knew Tim would be on top of. But I was just wondering, had things changed? And when we talk about do all rec centers just pay like that? It's just, for me, it just seems a little bit odd, but it could just be the practice. But that's why I asked again this year, kind of the same question: was there anything that we could possibly do different? Because it does seem like I'm giving it to you and you giving it to someone else, instead of me just directly writing the check to the person. So that was the only reason I brought it up.
That was my point too. What do they do at other recs?
Okay. All right. Kiana?
I was going to talk about something different. So if people still have things about the rec piece, I don't want to jump to something else.
Okay. Ms. Boyd?
I'll finish my question. Yes, is this the norm for other recs? Is that how they pay? I was just curious.
To my knowledge, it is. We can
Okay.
reach out to the other recs and see what else they're doing. But
Okay.
I'd even had this same conversation with the former village manager, and he seemed to feel like it was similar at the other recreation centers as well.
Oh,
And I'll leave it alone after this, because when you're into sports and paying referees and umpires and different things like that, you don't know who's going to show up for that particular game. So if Cindy was the rec for 6 games, it would be easier for the finance director from Village of Woodlawn to cut me a check for 6 games, but
Right.
the turnover is great. So each day it may be somebody different. So I agree. I think Tim has a great handle on it. Pam, your question was great, having that audit piece, because that was a concern in the past. So I think we're on top of things.
Thanks. Okay. Is there anything else regarding that? Kiana, you said you had something different. Is it regarding where we're at with Tim's reporting right now? Or is it something that could possibly be later on in his reporting?
I believe it is related. I know prior to
Okay.
recreation, like referee conversation, Pam had asked some questions about the payment listing.
Okay.
And I had a more general question, not for any specific line, but I did notice that there are a lot of voids in this payment listing.
Yes,
Was there some issue?
I was getting into a fight with my printer, basically.
Mhm.
So all the checks are pre-numbered. And if I print out a bunch of them at one time and the printer picks up more than one of them, I have to void the whole mess in order to get it right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had seen that too. Go ahead.
No, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, Tim.
Moving on to the overtime report, included in your packets is an overtime report. The village spent $32,402 in overtime for the month of December. The village has spent a total of $202,000. I'm just going to round the numbers off, $202,000 in overtime this year, with the police and fire departments making up 54% and 33% of overtime charges respectively. Also included in your report is a salary expense report. Currently, the village has spent $214,000 more on salaries and benefits in 2021 than in 2020. Given the increases in salaries and the additional cost of medical benefits, it's reasonable to see an increase in this expense. Total percentage increase in salary expense over 2020 is 5.15%. Both recreations, administration, and the mayor's court departments are showing savings in salary expense of 1%, 43%, and 6% respectively. Obviously, that admin savings is just having the lack of a full-time village manager for so long. We're obviously happy to have Anson here. Also wanted to point out, if you look at your salary expense reports, they're towards the back of your packets. You'll notice that the fire department, their total increase overall is 1% in salary and benefits expenses for the year. We just wanted to point out, again, we did so much to correct, or not correct, but to adjust fire salaries and do a little bit more for those firefighters, because it's been a lot more competitive in finding them. And they've been very good stewards about trying to schedule the right people at the right times and cut where they can cut to keep that cost down to the village. So wanted to call them out for that. That was wonderful on their part. Any questions about salaries and overtime before I move on? I'm seeing none, so I'm going to move on if that's all right. Negative fund balances. I finally get to report that as of last month, the village has no negative fund balances. So we have paid off, thank you, $850,469.45 of negative fund balances that we were made aware of and as part of the 2019 audit. We were made aware of that in May of 2020. So those are gone. So we get to start anew. Moving on.
Way to go.
Very happy about that.
Great.
Oh my gosh.
One more thing out of the way, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No more questions on that.
What Pam say?
I said, we have no more questions on those negative balances.
Negative
Right.
balance.
Right. You're right about
Move on
that, Pam.
quickly. Recreation income versus receipts. In your packets, we have a table that summarizes recreation's receipts and expenditures. At year end 2021, we see that the general fund had expenditures over receipts in the amount of $286,659.90. Just as a comparison, year-end 2020, general fund expenditures related to Recreations Department exceeded receipts by $302,729. So we did better this year than we did last year. We see the pool levy numbers on there where the receipts from the pool are $151,881. That's money generated from the pool levy. Expenditures are $473,000. Obviously, the majority of that was related to the pool renovations. So generally speaking, that pool levy money should be about equal to pool expenditures, just for anybody that needed to know. If there aren't any questions, I'll kind of move on to some of the grant information here. Oh, Pam has a question.
I see Pam has a question.
Yep.
I don't know if this is really related to us in finance, but I would just like to see what we can do differently. And I know I've probably said this before, of tackling this recreation so that we, the numbers can look a little bit better. And I understand that, we're not going to break even, but maybe we can try to discuss, and it might take place in some rec meeting or something, how to move forward since we're at the beginning of the year with our recreation department and trying to offset some of the expenses that we've seen over the last couple of years. I think we're going to have to really start to get our arms around how this should look or what direction we're going into to start to make change so that these numbers can offset, not totally just break even, because we know a lot of times that this doesn't happen with rec, but we need to begin to put a dent in some of these expenses to try to generate more revenue on that side of the fence to offset some of these expenses.
Yep.
Okay.
Now,
Pam,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
I agree. I know that Anson and I will continue to have conversations with recreations to try to see what all we can do over there. I know Paul has been working very hard to establish new programs and think of new ideas for the recreation center. And I think as we continue into 2022, we'll see some of that happen as well. The other thing we have to remember, we shut the rec down in 2020 because of COVID. Some people came back, some people didn't. Some of the programs came back, some of them didn't. So in a lot of ways, we really are kind of rebuilding that recreations as well. And it's probably going to take, a couple of years to get ourselves rebuilt and reestablished to really be something again.
And I would agree with you, Tim. It might even be a 1 or 2, 3 year plan, but I just think that we need to start to brainstorm that. And I know that Tiana had brought some things up last year in regards to, trying to come up with a plan. But I think we definitely need to step forward now that, we have Mr. Shirley helping us too, and we have Paula. I just think we need to really start to brainstorm of what that looks like.
Okay. I think all of what you're saying is a good thing. And it's something that is on all of our minds, but I want to make sure, Monica, that we have that on the next CAL meeting to discuss that further. It's something else that we can go into, and possibly from the CAL meeting, maybe a recreation meeting can be set up. Okay, we can just lightly touch on it. We don't have to go into a full discussion or anything, but we can just lightly touch on it. And from there, possibly a recreation meeting can be scheduled.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if to your point, to both you and Pam's point, I did send out council an email tonight. I'm not for sure if you all checked your emails, but to your point, right there is where I kind of wanted to spotlight that. And I think it's a great idea for us to start the new year. On this note, Mr. Turley is coming in. He's still learning that process, right? And so it gives us an opportunity to kind of break out. I'm thinking that we break out in February for each committee meeting and talk about those initiatives for the year. Another thing that I think is very beneficial for us, and we must really think about that, And that is to jumpstart the commission. The commission
Mhm.
is very, very instrumental. We have not used them in the last few years. And I think that we really need to bring that back. There are ideas that come out of there, things that the Recreation Commission can do on behalf of the Recreation Department that the committee cannot. Okay, so the
I
commission can,
absolutely,
the
I'm sorry.
commission, no worries. The commission, Pam, for example, they can put on a pool party. You as a committee cannot. So those are ways that we can utilize that body to generate money for the recreation. I think also is that here in the last year, and we've seen it, where Paula has really went outside of what I call the box, meaning she has looked for ways to partner with this entity or that entity where we're not paying all those monies, right? And forming those relationships. And again, just to recap on all of that is that, again, look at that email that I sent, give me individually feedback. But I think that it might be very advantageous for us to break out in committee for the month of February so that we can begin to kind of start thinking ahead for the next 3 months. We should always be at least 3 months ahead of ourselves. So I think that's a great, great idea, Pam.
Thank you, Mayor. And without us getting too deep into a recreation meeting
Correct.
and getting far away from our finance
No
meeting,
worries.
I'm one to always want to give everyone the opportunity to speak on whatever it is they like to speak on, because sometimes when you're in one meeting, it rolls over into something else. But so that we don't get too far away from our task of a finance meeting, we can kind of keep those recreation or any other comments regarding rec and handle that at our CAL meeting. Okay. I did see Kiana's hand up. Was it regarding recreation, Kiana?
I can hold my comment for another time so we can move forward.
Okay. I saw Ms. Chandler had her hand up.
Likewise, it was a recreation comment regarding the swimming pool.
We'll hold it. Okay.
Okay.
A hold. Mhm.
All righty.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Tim.
Sorry, I was going to move on. I thought all the questions were done.
Mhm. Go ahead.
All righty, moving on to our FEMA grant. We've talked about this in the past. So our fire department received a FEMA grant in the amount of $120,476. That grant was for the purpose of replacing the SCBA system, which is the system that they use to refill their oxygen tanks, as well as replacing the exhaust system in the firehouse itself. So we passed legislation last month to purchase the new SCBA system from Air Breathing Solutions, and that is in the works. There's also legislation on council's agenda this month, so coming up, to purchase the exhaust system from Magna Grip through the HCGA Buy Purchasing Consortium. So HGCA Buy is similar to the Ohio Joint Purchasing Program, as well as the Sourcewell program that we're a part of. And that allows us to purchase things that are over $50,000 without having to put them out to bid. So it saves us some time and effort. And those programs comply with the state and federal purchasing requirements. So it keeps us in compliance with everybody. Also with our pool levy, we've discussed this the last few meetings. My advice on we know the pool levy expires in 2022 at year end 2022. I've advised council to go ahead and work to place a replacement levy on the ballot that would adjust the property values from 1997 values to 2022 values. And the replacement levy, assuming passage, would generate roughly $200,000 in taxes for the purpose of operating a municipal pool. Council can also put a renewal levy on as opposed to replacement levy, and that would keep your tax revenues at about $151,000 for the pool. I did speak with Brenda Weimer via email this last week, about what it would take about our timeline for the levy. Essentially, council needs to adopt a resolution of necessity by June or July. So
Right.
we want to make sure we get this done by June at the latest.
Correct.
We go ahead and we send the past resolution to the county auditor in mid-July. The county auditor sends us his estimates in mid-July, and then council adopts the resolution to proceed at the July council meeting. And we have to file with the Board of Elections by August 10th. Now, we can do all this before the 10th of August, but just as kind of a tentative timeline, we want to make sure we get this, done enough time for Dinsmore and Scholl to do their job, and then obviously for us to get it where it needs to go. I see your questions.
Yeah. I've always said, if this is something that we're going to do, we really need to get our residents educated early and just really pound it in so that they really understand and know what it's going to look like and what it's going to do for us. And we need to do that sooner than later. Because my biggest fear would be that if it doesn't pass, then we're out. Next year, what is it?
2023. Yeah.
Yes, 2023, we're out. And which means we won't be able to operate the pool. So that's my biggest fear. So if we're going to do this, I just want to make sure that we do whatever it is necessary to make sure that we get our residents educated and just give them as much information as we possibly can get to them.
Sure.
This is something that we're deciding to do. And Tim just left me. I guess he'll jump back in there pretty soon. I see Kiana's hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question, and actually it might be for Tim to answer, but I guess more of a statement around the levy is, can we set a deadline for us to make a decision whether we want to move forward with a renewal or a replacement? Because I totally agree with you that the earlier we can get the word out and get information out to people, the better. Time is flying. I feel like 2021 went by in a blink of an eye. And if we're talking about trying to get something on the levy for this November, then the decision needs to be made now, honestly, on what direction we want to move in so that we can start that education around some of this stuff. The more time we have, the better. So I know we only meet once a month, and that's a lot of time lost.
Exactly.
Make a decision.
I'll look at our schedule because now I'm proposing that we move forward with the breakouts for the month of February. But I think that it is a wonderful time for us to go ahead and have that. Let's Rosemary, maybe you have that conversation with Tim and Anson. Perhaps there's something that from a chair standpoint they want to share, so you can share with us. But I begin to have that conversation with the two of them because I'm not for sure what that conversation between the two of them perhaps have been. So again, we want to make sure that we are including the village manager, hearing what his take is on that, right? And then we move forward from there. As I mentioned before, team, Cal is going to look a little different, right? So I want everybody to be aware of how that's going to look. Cal meeting is pretty much going to be ran by the village manager.
Okay, Mayor.
Yes.
Okay, not to cut you off.
No, go.
Okay, can we save those your other comments? Okay, until the end, and I promise I'll let everyone get an opportunity.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Kiana had her hand up. Was it regarding something Tim is speaking to right now?
No, it was, I forgot to take my hand after I said the last thing.
Oh, okay. All right, Tim. We're gonna let you go without any more interruptions.
Say, I apologize. I got booted for about a minute, but I think you guys were
Okay.
coming back to where I wanted to be. Where I was going to advise that we perhaps try to decide at the February Cal meeting as to which direction we want to go, and I'll get that
Okay.
information to Dinsmore, and we can have legislation as early as end of February or March to give Dinsmore plenty of time.
Okay.
Let's see, new business. The financial statements for the year ending December 31, 2021, related to the Village of Woodlawn and the Woodlawn Special Improvement District, which is Arnold Drive, are
Mhm.
due March 1st, 2022 to the state of Ohio. The statements
Mhm.
related to the Woodlawn Special Improvement District are complete and they're attached to your report for your review. We'll ask for council to approve those statements before submitting them to the state. We'll do that at the February meeting. I'll submit them all at the same time.
Don't worry.
Um,
Okay.
And then the village financial statements will also be ready in February to be approved by council at the February meeting. Also included in your report is the asset forfeiture / restricted funds report related to various police special revenue funds. This report will need to be approved by council to be in compliance with Ohio Revised Code 2981.11. We're supposed to submit that report every year to the council for review. I'll go over it real briefly here. It's not a long report. It's literally a page. And it relates to three funds we have on our ledger. So it's Fund 2067, which is the Office of Criminal Justice Service Grant, 2081, which is Drug Law Enforcement Fund, and 2091, which is the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. 2067 and 2081 are really easy. They don't have any money in them and we didn't get any. Therefore, we didn't spend any. So those are easy to report on every year. I think those actually, we used to get money into those funds. We were part of different drug programs. So I know the police department is working on trying to find ways to get back into those. Fund 2091 is a law enforcement trust fund. Again, very little activity in that fund in terms of receipts. I think that was related to some of the different drug fine money that we used to get years ago. But we had a fund balance in it of $37,947.13. Of that amount, we spent $33,647.13 in 2021, and that was to purchase additional squad cars for the police department. It has a remaining fund balance of $4,040.40. And that's pretty much the biggest part of that report for 2021. That remaining $4,000 will probably also utilize for police cruiser purchases this year, just to go ahead and zero the fund out and move forward. And said hopefully the police department will find ways to kind of reestablish getting the appropriate organizations to provide money to us into those funds again. I think that had to do with certain credentials some of the police had years ago.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to break my promise. I see the mayor's hand up. Did you forget to take it down or you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to take it down. You told me not to interrupt no more. So I'm gonna take it down. Yeah.
You can interrupt
Okay.
whenever you like. And then just a quick recap of some 2021. The village
Okay.
recognized the following financial victories, as I like to call them, in 2021. We eliminated all negative fund balances, which is huge. The village analyzed the debt related to the Woodlawn Community Center and performed a bond refunding, which saved the village $527,827 over the remaining life of the debt, removed 6 years of debt payments. The village gave all village employees raises and restructured and increased wages related to the village fire department. The village secured a loan to purchase a new dump plow truck for the public works department. That truck should be delivered in January or February this year. The village received $450,000 in federal grants related to the American Recovery Act, FEMA, and the Community Development Block Grant. And the village received an additional $739,168 in income tax revenues after contracting with RETA for tax collections and services. With that, I know one of the things I said to Rosemary came down to talk to me this afternoon. One of the things I did want to point out as we go through our financial report. In your packets, you have the budget versus actual summaries. In the general fund, you'll notice the general fund receipts for 2021 were $8.4 million, and general fund expenditures related to 2021 were $8.8 million. Generally speaking, things like that would raise eyebrows. The thing I want to remind the committee is that there were a little over $400,000 of additional tax revenues that came from RETA in January related to the month of December. So while that may look a little odd, we did pretty much spend what we received. We kept ourselves in line.
Oh, okay.
And then going forward, legislation and approval expenditures over $10,000. We have an ordinance to increase appropriations. None of these are for general fund accounts. All of them relate to special revenue accounts for additional purchases. So we're going to increase the Brownfield grant, which is Fund 4911, by $21,852. That's to help pay for the underground storage tank removal at the barbecue property. Law Enforcement Trust Fund will also increase. I think that amount, I have it as $20,100. It shouldn't be that much, it'd be about $4,000. That was to obviously offset the cost of the new police cruisers. The state grant should increase by $8,950. That's to help offset the cost of a new cot system for the fire department to be installed in one of the ambulances. And then capital improvement will increase by $8,598. And that will be to, again, help out with the removal of those underground storage tanks. The capital improvement item wasn't on your draft. I added that after the fact because I had to remember we can actually spend money on that fund again. We got rid of the negatives. So we'll use that to offset the cost of that extraction.
Okay, good.
Also, there will be an ordinance to advance $116,000 to the FEMA fund. That is to pay for the items we discussed previously from the FEMA grant, which were the SCBA system and the exhaust system. We may or may not advance that amount. We're looking at speaking with the FEMA representatives about drawing down that money in advance of having to make the expenditure. If that's the case, obviously we won't advance any money from the general fund. We'll just pay it when we get the bills. But if they kind of force us to kind of reimburse ourselves, we'll advance it over to the FEMA fund, pay the vendors, and then submit the reimbursement to FEMA. There will be a resolution to charge 30% of public works salary and benefits expenses to a combination of the state highway fund, road and bridge fund, and permissive motor vehicle and license tax fund. That's on the advice of the state auditor as to how to charge those expenditures to those funds. We should do a resolution for that each year. And we'll kind of monitor that throughout the years to make sure that that's an appropriate amount to charge to those funds. There will be a resolution to contract with Next Step for IT services. That'll, for all intents and purposes, be a renewal. We use Next Step currently for our IT purpose services. There'll be a resolution to contract with Stryker for the purchase and installation of a new power lift cot into the village ambulance. We kind of discussed that for a minute already. We'll go ahead and pay for that cot. The majority of it will be paid for out of American Rescue Act monies. And that is a cot that gets installed onto the ambulances, and it stops the firefighters from having to lift people into the ambulance. So it saves backs and knees and shoulders of our employees. So we have one system installed on one ambulance. This will pay for another one. There'll be a resolution to contract with Pivot for cleaning services related to the village municipal building and police station. We've kind of talked about that in the past. Emily is still working on kind of reviewing that contract, but I assume it'll be on the agenda. There'll be a resolution to contract with PAR Public Safety Equipment for the outfitting of the police vehicles we're looking to buy, as well as a resolution to buy 3 Ford Explorers from Lebanon Ford. The price we got on the 3 of them is in compliance with the Ohio Purchasing Consortium. There'll be a resolution to contract with Atlas Technical Consultants to remove the gas tanks from 10150 Springfield Pike. A resolution to join the HCGA buy purchasing program for the exhaust system, as well as a resolution to purchase the exhaust system from Magna Grip. And a resolution to contract with the Ohio Attorney General's Office for the purpose of collecting unpaid traffic tickets. That is specifically for the mayor's court. There are some unpaid tickets, and we can push that information out to Dave Yost's office, and his office will collect the money for us. And then finally, there will be a resolution to contract with Humana Health Insurance Company for medical benefits and setting employee premium rates. And Emily will have that language together for the meeting next week as well. And that should really be all. That should really be all the legislation we have for the meeting next week. And then the only other things I have are my normal reminders that I just kind of leave on here. We want to make sure we review our fire levy no later than January 2023. And then just a reminder again that our public works truck is coming and should be here either January or February as soon as it's been delivered.
I have a question for our final budget that's due by March.
Yes.
I know in the temporary budget, you said you did not have anything in there regarding the raises, if any, that we would be giving to our employees.
Right.
We need to have a discussion on that as to whether or not there will be, and if so, what percentage. So at some point in time, we need to have that discussion, Mayor. You can come up with a date or wherever you would like to have that discussed. Do you want to do that at our next finance meeting? Do you want that on the next agenda? Or is that something we want to talk about in COUN?
Well,
Or someplace?
Again, let me, before I say where we would take that, in terms of a COW or finance, let me sit down again with the village manager and finance director and let them give me some direction, okay?
Okay, that's fine. Also, I want to let everyone know that we will continue to get the same reports that we have been getting. And if there are any other reports that you would like to see or any other information that you would like to see in finance, either let me know or Tim know. I don't have a problem if there's something that you would like to see, if it's going to help you make your decisions, you know, that's all fine. So I don't have a problem with that. Also, pretty much, I'll just continue the format that we've had in the past year. If there's anything new, just let me know.
Yep.
I see Kiana has her hand. Tim, did you have something else to say?
I was just going to piggyback on what you were saying, Ms. Brown. Any additional reports, please let me know. I try to have these reports out to everybody by the close of business on the Thursday before our Monday meeting. So if there are ever any questions or concerns, please always feel free to contact me or email me before the meeting. Happy to discuss things with anybody that needs some help with anything or just has any issues. And then, like I said, anything else that you need, please just let me know. I'm happy to provide it to you.
Okay, that's fine. Kiana.
Thank you. I just had a
Yes.
question related, and I know that we're going to have a resolution at the council meeting around the medical benefits. Just had a question on whether or not there were any substantial changes or increases in premiums this year.
Premiums went up about 6% this year. We did switch from previously we used Lincoln Financial Services to provide dental, vision, and life insurance. In order to get a better rate with Humana, we switched the dental service to Humana, but the providers are the same. The insurance packages are essentially identical. And like I said, the cost went up about 6% on the premiums. And we do bid those out through USI, which is our group that helps us purchase our insurance benefits.
Thank you.
Tim, do you know when you would have the final budget? When are you going to have something for us to look at?
Final budget, I would like to have that ready for you guys to review, certainly at our next finance committee meeting, which is going to be in
Okay.
February.
Yeah.
We've got to get that approved by March anyway, but that'll give me some time to, complete the financial report for the state. And then my hope is that'll give us will give Anson and I some time to really sit down and kind of pour through that budget a little bit. I know we've discussed some different efficiencies and things we would like to do. If those are able to be implemented, that would be great. Anson and I have both agreed that the priorities for the village really need to be people, necessities, and everything else. So our employees, and then the things we have to run the village, gas, electric, things of that nature, and then all the other stuff. We have to make those things our priorities within our budget and moving forward that way.
Okay. If possible, and if it's okay with the mayor, if there was we could have that before the finance meeting where we can sit down and discuss it if there's a need for us to sit out and have a special meeting or work session where we can sit down and discuss it as opposed to coming to it in our finance meeting and prolonging the meeting.
Yep. No, and I, if you know me, I like to get things done well in advance to give everybody enough time. I just don't want to shortchange myself, but I've got a few more. I've got another good week in January yet, and we've got some time in February. So as soon as I can get that through, I will do that. Yep.
That's good. Do we have any other questions? Any new business? Pam?
I just have one quick question on an addition that I would like to see, but this is what I have. When we talk about the road funds, I'd like to see a list to go hand in hand with the money that's left. So we talked that we have 800,000 or 831. We've collected so much money. We have so much left, $1.4 million, I think we talked about, left in the road fund. And what I would like to see possibly during this meeting is what roads we're going to do next. So have a discussion, it doesn't have to be a discussion, but to say, we have this much money left. This is where we're going to plan on moving forward with the roads, so that if someone's on the line, they understand that we do have this money left, but we also have this list, because I know we always talk about a list of roads, but we also have this list of roads that we plan on doing next. And it would be nice, I think, to have those just, hand in hand. This is what we have left. This is the list. And it may change, especially as spring goes. This is what we have left. We may not have 1.4 million, we may have 1 million. And these are the next streets. So that the list may change, but I think it would answer some of the questions that I've gotten. Just, we have this money left, what roads? And instead of just having to go to the next town meeting or listen in, they know that goes hand in hand. It's just a suggestion.
That goes along with asking for that list. We can ask for that list. So if we can get that list to us, then
Now,
we would have.
Madam Chair, now just to point to your point, to Pam's point, that list from last year has not changed. However, as Pam pointed out, that list also can be a fluid list, right? And so when I say fluid, meaning that here comes the springtime, the village manager, public works, finance, they decided that this is the route that we need to go. So I know that we have a couple priority streets for 2021 that we're going to be sending back out for rebidding because that process looked a little high, if we all recall that. So
2022.
2021. We sent some bids out in 2021. Toward the end of the year, they came back a little high. So the plan was to resubmit those bids for 2021, spring of 2022, I'm sorry. And that way, so we can right off the rip say that we know that there's 2 streets for sure that are gonna be done in 2022. Now, we still don't want to take the focus away about our business district. We have a really bad street up there that we can't take our sight and eye off of because we want all these residential streets to be done. So again, that list can change. It's a fluid list. Again, we look for the direction that the village manager will give us and his assessment of these streets. But I believe for the beginning of this year, we've already identified for sure 2 streets beginning with Woodstock that we're going to be doing in the spring. And so I'm hoping, my goal is that we see some orange barrels and some cones come March. When the weather break, I'm ready to see the trucks because we didn't see. So to Pam's point, we didn't see a lot of activity in 21. And so the public's thinking process is, okay, we got this money. What are we doing? We know internally why we didn't move forward on that, right? But again, I think that that's another avenue for us to make sure that we are keeping the public informed. We do our best on the council floor and any other avenues that we have. But I think, again, just to Pam's point, we just need to see some activity out there.
Okay.
And it's going to happen because we've had that conversation with the village manager and Tim. I know that it's going to happen. I'm confident in the both of them.
Okay. Is there, I'm sorry, Tim.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that. The village manager and I have kind of had some discussions about a very similar kind of listing. And I think as we move forward, we may start to see some additional items. So a lot of that kind of depends on how different things kind of go with our own internal stuff. But I'm very excited as we get into 2022, and I think there are going to be a lot of really good things on the horizon for the village, both financially as well as in terms of the roads and things of that nature. And it's going to be great. It really is.
Definitely, I agree. I see 2 hands. That's Miss Boyd, and then I see Miss Chandler. Go ahead, Miss Boyd. You're muted.
Tim, I know you said that we're coming out with that list, you and the village manager, of the roads that we're gonna have done. But are we still working on grants as well, like Terrace? Or, you know, we want, you said you were gonna really pay attention to.
We are. So again, we always want to make sure we apply for as many grants as we can and try to get as much money as we can for our village. We'll continue to apply to those grants. Obviously, you know, I know at the last meeting, we noted that we missed out on a couple of them in 2021, and that was a disappointment. So we'll make sure that we talk to our engineers and make whatever changes we need to make within the village to make sure that those grants become available to us. Those are a huge help in stretching those dollars out. And I know we'll be looking into some other avenues as well. So the more we can do with, you know, and really the best thing we can do is to try to use the road tax money as match money for those grants. Most grants have matches. And if we can use the road tax money as match money and then pay for a good chunk of everything else out of the grants, we'll go a lot further than just trying to pay for it outright with the taxes. So we're going to keep looking into those avenues. I know we've had some productive meetings here and there with things like that. And as we continue to move forward, and said, my hope is that we'll be able to bring some great things to council. And I hate to say too much before we can get things going and really get a handle on it, but I think there's some great things on the horizon. Yeah.
Yeah, we had industry people that had great concerns about their particular roads, and you did speak on that before, but that's still a part of your focus, right?
Right. And I think to Mayor Poole's point, the list from 2021 really hasn't changed at this point. We're still looking at Redna Terrace, Ronnie, Woodstock, Lee Crest, and I'm missing one of them, but I'll remember here in a minute. I don't have it in front of me. But yeah, those are still the roads.
Tim.
Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Mayor?
I would just share, he was running down the streets and I was sharing with him what that last one is. There's a possibility that we're going to look at Timberland But again, that was based on, I guess the priority is what I heard toward the end of the year.
Right.
Versus could we get past another year with them? Or is there something that's worse out there? Again, I rely on Anson and you guys as a team to come up with that list.
Sure.
But from what we talked about last year, I don't see anything changing.
Okay. Cindy?
Yes, I was just gonna say, and this is just a suggestion. I know that Ms. Yehad and the team, the administrative team is working on the newsletter. We talked about things coming out. We talked about marketing, the pool levy. We talked about getting the road list out. So now's the time to start striking and having a marketing plan. So she's, we can get the information out sooner than later, and just keep putting it out there to the public of what we're doing, so we have a lot of transparency.
Okay, I think there's a lot to be discussed. I think it's a good idea that we're going to have our breakout meetings in February. Is that going to be in addition to the CAL meeting, or rather than having the CAL meeting, we're going to have the breakout meeting? I have not read your email. It must have came later in the afternoon after I checked my emails.
It came right before this meeting tonight. However,
okay.
Those emails are fluid as well. I'm working on a retreat. We talked about that last year, and I'm really working on that. That is what I'm trying to work on in place of having all of these committee meetings. Okay. All right. So look for that here the next week. Okay.
Okay, I see Kiana's hand is up, and I know I'm asking for new business, but and we haven't met in a while, so we've had a lot to talk about. Some of it is tying into finance, some of it is going in another direction. So, Kiana?
We can move on, Ms. Brown. I'm good.
No, we don't have to move on. I'm a firm believer of letting people speak what they want to talk about. I am a firm believer of that. But I know in the past, people have said, well, this doesn't refer to such and such, such and such, such and such. But
yeah, it's fine.
We haven't met in a while, so let's talk.
It's not critical, so it's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Is there any other finance information or questions that we have? If not, I'll entertain an adjournment motion.
I make a motion to adjourn our finance committee meeting at 8:26.
A second.
Thank you all.
All
I think it
ayes.
was a good meeting. All ayes.
All ayes.
Aye.
Remember that. That's for your record. That's so important that you say that piece. Okay. All
Yes,
right.
Mayor.
All right,
Motion
that's-
carries.
Motion carried, Ms. Boyd.
All
I
right.
see you.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
everybody.